Welcome to this episode of the Sangamon County Circuit Clerk Presents. I'm Betsy Moore. The following program is one in a series of programs on various topics of public interest that concern the Circuit Clerk's office, their various departments, and the issues they deal with. These programs are produced for your benefit in the hope that the information contained within will help you better understand the role and the scope of the Sangamon County Circuit Clerk's office.
And welcome, Sangamon County Circuit Clerk Presents. You know, from time to time, we do programs that are of interest to the general public, and I can't think of a topic that's more fitting for a program than this one. It's all about jury duty, and we're here to talk to the boss, the Chief Judge, the Honorable Leslie Graves. Your Honor, good to see you.
Well, it's good to see you, Tony.
So,
thank you for having me.
You are the Chief Judge of the 7th Judicial Circuit, which is big stuff.
Well, we do it by seniority, and this is my 2 years.
It's your turn in the barrel, so to speak.
It is my turn in the barrel. I've enjoyed it. I feel like we've made some progress. There's always changes that can be made.
Sure.
There's always ways that you can tweak things to make things better, and that's what we're trying to do.
Well, you're an attorney. Obviously, to be a judge, you need to be an attorney. Tell us a little bit about you, and then we'll get on with our topic here.
Well, I'm from Springfield. I was born here in 1962.
You're one of the few people I've ever met that was born in Springfield.
Well, it seems to be nobody's
Everybody's
born
from
here.
somewhere else.
Yes, and a lot of people want to leave.
Well, that happens too.
But I was born here. My parents are both from the public sector, public servant realm, and went to law school. I went to Springfield High School, went to law school, and wanted to come back here to be with my family.
Fantastic. And then you became a successful attorney and then ran for judge, got a wild idea to do that. I remember those days.
Yes, back in 2000.
Oh my, that's back when I was skinny and had dark hair. So now you have worked your way to the chief judge position.
Yes.
And part of that is that you are, I imagine, overall in charge of the operations of the court system with the input of the other judges.
Absolutely.
And jury duty is a constant source of work around here. By that I mean, for the benefit of our viewing audience, we touch the lives of many people out there when they get called for jury duty. For some it's a traumatic experience, for some it's, oh, I can't wait to do it, I hope I get a Perry Mason kind of trial. And for others it's, you know, I don't know if I could take off work. So we want to talk about all of those things. So if you don't mind, I want to ask you about the process of being selected for jury duty here in Sangamon County in the 7th Judicial Circuit. So hang on with me.
I'd love to share what information I have.
Okay. Well, and I hope you know the answers because I don't. Now, I will say that the Sangamon County Circuit Clerk's Office 20 years ago used to manage this program, and we haven't for 20 years. So I truly don't know about some of the things that go on, even though we get the calls a lot of times. So first of all, how do we identify who is being picked for jury duty?
Well, there are 5 different databases that we cull people from. Driver's license, voter registration, state ID, disability, and one other I can't think of.
I had no idea we went to
Yes.
those extremes.
Yes.
And
Unemployment is the other one.
so we have a computer program that generates these names?
We cull those names, and it's completely arbitrary who is selected, and not arbitrary, but it's random, excuse me. And those names are selected, and then from that group we send out jury questionnaires. And then there's another selection process from that.
All right, so if you were ever issued an Illinois, or are issued an Illinois license as an example, you could be a potential juror.
Absolutely.
If you're a registered voter as an example, so it's not just one of those, it's a combination of those, and you could be picked from any of those lists.
Absolutely.
So it's truly arbitrary, as you did say, you know, random.
It's random.
Yeah,
Yes,
okay.
It is random.
Yeah, it's not arbitrary, but
Yes.
it's random, yeah.
Yes, I misspoke. And then from that, those people are sent a questionnaire. They fill out that questionnaire. They're required to fill out that questionnaire and return it within 10 days because timeliness is important for this. Based on that questionnaire, the group is culled again because there are certain people, there's a certain group of people that are automatically disqualified.
Who might those folks be?
Well, people who've moved out of the county,
Okay.
obviously people who've passed away. People who are 75 or older who choose not to do not have to serve on jury duty.
What about people with physical impairments?
Not necessarily.
Okay, it's not automatically going to keep you off.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
It is one of, that's one of the questions that we face all the time, and what we need from those people. We don't want to put anybody in harm's way by coming here. We don't want to make this something that is physically painful to them. So what we need for those people to do is to actually contact the jury commissioner and let them know, and we normally require some type of medical documentation that there is a problem. When I am going to pick a jury, when I have the pool of potential jurors in front of me, oftentimes I get people that raise their hand and say, I can't serve, and I'll call them up to the bench and I'll ask them why, and they'll tell me they have just a list of physical ailments, and I tell them, number one, I wish they would have brought me documentation. Sometimes you can actually see it,
But you need to verify one way or the other.
we need to verify. And you know, there are people that you can tell just physically, and normally what I'll do is consult with the attorneys that are involved in the case, and if somebody does have an obvious physical ailment, or they sometimes have a doctor's note, we'll let them go. We don't want anybody to suffer to serve on the
So
jury.
this is, I'm reluctant to use the term a long process, because this is the first screenings that
Correct.
these individuals will go through.
Well, the questionnaire is,
The
yes.
questionnaire would be, yeah. And
Exactly.
then showing up in front of your bench would be the next.
Well, that's actually, that's a step in the middle. The last part is actually being in the jury box and being asked questions.
Right.
But you have to fill out the questionnaire. Then once that is done, then we take the people that are disqualified, set them to the side, and then the people who are qualified, they're sent a summons, and they have to respond to that summons.
Okay. Now, what I'm trying to think again. We know here in this building, we have 4 trials that we're trying to get potential jurors for. 2 of them are going to be lengthy trials because perhaps they're a more serious offense, a murder type
More
of thing.
complex cases.
Right. That's going to take time, and I imagine, of course, some cases actually take weeks. But most, I would imagine that the average juror is going to be on, is that an afternoon
Less
or a
than
couple
week.
days?
Less
Yeah.
than a week. I've actually had cases where it took longer to pick the jury than to try the case.
Right.
We very rarely have cases that are so complex that they last over a week. Most of them are 2 to 3 days. Civil cases can go longer. A very complex criminal case can go longer. Usually criminal cases are a week unless it's a murder case or
Right.
something more complex.
Okay. Now, I understand that in the old days you used to get the forms to fill out and they would tell you to call on Friday or call Friday night, and if there's a message that says you don't have to call on Monday, you felt relieved. Or it might say, no, we might need you, come in Monday morning. I understand that's computerized now, that part?
It is. You also have that information on the jury summons.
Right.
But
And you're given a code number
you're
to
given
type
a code number, and then what you do is you call in or type in, and the machine or the message will say either come on Monday or don't, and you need to call after 5 o'clock the Friday before the Monday you are to appear.
Right.
If that message says you don't have to appear, then you have to call in at 11:15 that Monday to see if you're needed for that afternoon. And that process continues throughout the week. So if you're not needed Monday afternoon, you will have called by 11:15 or at 11:15 on Monday morning. If you're not needed by Monday afternoon, for Monday afternoon, then after 5 o'clock on Monday night, you call again to find out if you're needed on Tuesday morning.
So we do this to keep you from having to take off work
Absolutely.
unnecessarily, and because we realize it is a burden.
Absolutely.
But it's something, it's a duty that we're all supposed to do, and I can understand some people not looking forward to it, but we should be proud that we have a system like this, because we're truly represented by our neighbors and peers.
And you know what surprises me after doing this for 13 years is people obviously hesitate. They don't necessarily want to be here, but in a vast majority of cases, unless it goes really long, because that can be tedious, people actually walk out of that jury room, out of that courtroom at the end of a jury trial, thankful that they got to have the experience.
Right.
They really appreciate having done it once they have done it.
Do judges get called for jury duty?
Absolutely. I haven't yet. I would
I think
love
I've been
to.
called 5 times in my life.
Really?
Yeah.
And see, my father, who passed away at almost 80 years old, was never called.
Isn't that
And
something?
some people get it every 2 years.
Every couple years, and then it hasn't happened in 10 years.
I
But-
know. It's
Well,
crazy.
we want to talk about a whole bunch of related things here, but let's talk about that process. Let's say you make your call on Friday, or you make your computer entry on Friday night, and it says, no, we need you Monday morning. What happens at that point? You come into the county building.
You come into the room 404, right by your office, the 4th floor, and you show up, and you, if you're part of that group, you are allowed to bring certain materials to keep yourself occupied. And a lot of people have that question: what can I bring? What am I supposed to do? You show up at the time given to you on the jury summons, and you can bring an e-reader, as they call them, an iPad or whatever you have. You can bring a book. You cannot bring the newspaper. You can't bring your cell phone for obvious reasons. And then you show up, and the jury commissioner will introduce herself and give you a short speech on what to expect.
And you're sworn in, I'm assuming, at that point.
You are sworn in.
Okay,
Yes.
then they have a room full of folks who've just been sworn in, and you call down and say, okay, let's bring up the first batch. We've got a potential jury being called in.
Well, what happens often is that first batch that first group of people.
My terminology, not yours, yes.
That first group of people is down there, and you got to remember the judges that potentially have a jury trial going are up there doing their jury call all the time. I have several, 60, 70, 80 people, and then a bunch of lawyers, and we're going through 50, 60 cases trying to determine which case is going to go to trial. And one of the reasons I always tell people that we need you there is because I'm sure everybody's heard of the phrase settled at the courthouse steps.
Right.
Well, when the parties know that there's a jury there waiting for them to try their case, oftentimes those cases settle.
Real quick.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, and why is that? Because if you couldn't form a jury, which has happened in other counties, what happens if you can't get enough people to show up for a jury?
Well, eventually the public and the lawyers know that, and the fact of the matter is the jury can be very much the stick to settle things. And if we don't have enough people to serve on a jury, we have to continue cases, and it just slows down the system even more. And people, complain about the fact that the system is slow. Well, not having enough jurors makes it even more slow.
So you don't automatically lose the case if you don't have a jury. You just postpone it, I would assume.
Exactly. Well, and part of the problem too is that we, if we call 100 jurors, Tony, we might get 50 or 60 come in. We have a very serious problem with it.
Here in
Absolutely,
the
a very
7th
serious
Circuit.
problem.
That's interesting to know. I'll tell you what, I want to get into the good stuff. I want to know what you do, what the chief judge does when you don't show up. And we're going to talk about some other things. Again, the process of going through the court, what you're looking for in a juror, how you respond to someone who says, I don't want to be here, Your Honor. And I'm sure you could tell some great stories, and I can't wait to hear them. We'll be back in a minute. Don't go away. We are pleased to be accompanied by the Chief Judge of the 7th Judicial Circuit, the Honorable Leslie Graves. And ma'am, it is a pleasure to be with you and to talk. We've not done one of these programs before.
We have not.
And I could give you statistics why we do these things, but we used to, at one time, perhaps 1,800 people a day in our office. The average phone call years ago was 20 minutes long. Now the average phone call is 2 minutes long, and we're down to about 1,000 people a day in the office, and it's because we try to offer information that will keep them from coming in and asking questions and calling and things like that and writing letters and try to keep the volume of questions down in your area. So programs like this really help, so we're really glad you've done it with us.
Well, and I've seen your website many times, and that's got to help too. You did a great job on that.
We get on average 400 hits an hour.
Oh my gosh.
On that, and I'm still puzzled as to why we get so many. But I mean, is it the folks who are just trying to check on what's going on? But it comes in handy, and you're right, it does answer a lot of questions. All right, let's talk about jury duty. Jury duty is one of those things that we get questioned on every day, and it's not always positive. And I'm sure you feel the brunt of that, even though I don't have the two people I will never talk back to as a police officer and the other one as a judge. So, but some people aren't like that, and they will let you know that they're not happy. So let's say, we're going to go back to the courtroom here in a minute, but let's say someone comes up to you as you're on the bench and says, Your Honor, I don't want to be here. You know, I think this guy should be put to death. I mean, how do you respond to those things?
Well, there are people that try that, but let's say, I've had them come at the very beginning where I ask a question of everyone. Is there any reason that you believe that you would have a conflict in this case? And what I'm looking for are people that have a disability that they can't sit, that may have booked a family trip a year ahead of this. We're not going to make those people stay. But if somebody comes up to the bench and says, I just don't believe in being a juror, I don't believe in what you stand for, whatever it may be, they still have to sit back down because we're going to ask them more questions.
Okay.
Because oftentimes when you get down to it and you start asking them the questions that we focus on, it breaks that veneer. Because
Right.
they're just saying it because they think that they can get out of spending the day with us. But no, they're expected to stay and answer some
Well,
questions.
what about the guy who says, Your Honor, I have no problem with being on this jury, but I'm a self-employed individual. This is my busy time of year. What are you going to tell that guy?
Well, I feel sorry for them.
Mm-hmm.
We have people who run daycare centers. We have people who are self-employed. We have doctors and people who their patients have waited for months to see them. All those people are essentially in the same situation, and I feel very sorry for them, but they are still required to show up and answer the questions and serve if both sides, the lawyers and the judge, thinks that they're the right person for that jury.
And is there ever a time when someone could be rescheduled?
Absolutely, absolutely. What you do if you need to be rescheduled is when you receive the summons, you have to call and let them know that you want to be rescheduled. You can be rescheduled, but you can't just use that as a means to never serve on the
Right.
jury.
Because if you're rescheduled, I'm assuming you are going to reschedule them.
Absolutely, we do that. And if they're actually there in the courtroom and asked to be rescheduled because they have something that they have to attend to, absolutely.
Sure.
We don't want to make it a terrible experience. We want people to walk away and promote being on a jury, to be our spokespeople.
Right. So there are exceptions to the rules. If you have to be, taken off of this particular jury for this period of
Absolutely.
time, you'll be glad to work with. And that's the point. You have a heart when you're doing this job.
Absolutely.
But you also realize we have serious business to conduct here, so you have to lay down the law sometime.
Absolutely.
And you are the person to do it. I've seen you in action. I love it. All right, let's get back to the person has been selected for jury duty, and they show up, and they've been sworn in. They go up to the courtroom. What happens at that point? They still don't know what the potential court action is going to be. I mean,
Exactly
they're
right.
going, what am I doing here? Okay, I'm in the courtroom. What?
And a lot of people are very uncomfortable just being there, even when
Sure.
they're not involved in the case, because to those of us who work in there every day, it's like you being in your office, or it's like somebody who is in television sitting behind a table like this and not being nervous. But it's one of those things. The first thing that we try to do as judges is make people comfortable, make them understand that they're not in trouble, that we thank them for their potential service and thank them for being there. And then what I do, and I believe all the judges do this, is we once again ask them, is there anybody here who believes they cannot serve for whatever reason? Because we don't want somebody sitting there for an entire day or an entire week knowing that they can't serve. So we try to remedy that situation as soon as possible. And then what we do is we read to them a statement of the case, which is a very, very general idea of what the case is going to be.
And that statement would say this is a murder trial?
Right.
Or?
Let's say if it's a criminal case, defendant Smith has been charged with 3 counts, and we'd name those counts. He has pled not guilty, and the people are represented by John Milheiser, the defense.
The state's attorney.
The state's attorney, and the defendant is represented by whoever. And so that gives them at least a guide. You know, okay, we know it's a criminal case, we know it's a civil case. And then what I will do is sometimes, depending on whether or not, I also read them a list of witnesses, because the witnesses, this is a very small town. And if I read off a list of witnesses and there are people on there that either
They know somebody on that list.
They know a family member, whatever the case may be.
Which is very possible. Yeah.
In this town, very much so. Very much so.
So that would what? If they, yeah, I know John Smith.
Well, what we do then is we ask them, you have to be very careful here, because you want to know whether or not that knowledge is going to in any way cause them to have any bias toward or against this person. I mean, there's people that obviously know the state's attorney, there's people that know the defense attorneys, so we have to make sure that that person can serve on the jury without having bias either for or against the person that they know.
Now, and then both attorneys would have to approve this individual, I would assume?
Well, when we put them in the jury box, we basically the way
They've made it past all those screenings, and now they're in the jury box.
Now they're in the box, right. And what happens is I ask them a set of very general questions. Their name, are they married? What if they have children over 18, what do those children do? What do they do for a living? What's their education?
Why would that be pertinent?
Well, because you want to know if it's a medical malpractice suit. What do your kids do? What do you do? Because that connection could also make a difference.
That's interesting.
I even asked them if they have any bumper stickers.
So you have to do a little bit of detective work yourself.
Absolutely, absolutely. And what I tell them as well, is before I even start asking questions, I say, if we ask you a question that it embarrasses you, or you would rather not answer in front of a room full of people, please let us know, because our goal is not to embarrass or intimidate you.
Right.
And then we'll bring them back to a smaller group of people, because the lawyers have to know why they feel that they shouldn't be there. So we'll bring them back to the jury deliberation room and ask them those questions, so they're not so overwhelmed by saying it in front of everybody.
All right, and then what's the next step after that, basically?
Well, I ask them questions, and then the attorneys get to ask them questions. And the attorneys are looking, obviously, for people who they believe would be fair to the case, fair to their side.
Fair to their side,
yes. Fair to their side.
Yeah, it's a business, sure, at that point, yeah.
Hopefully fair to both sides.
Yeah.
That will...
at least not be detrimental to their side.
Exactly, that aren't going to go in with an obvious bias or
Right.
or any type of an agenda. And the lawyers are very good at finding those things out. Then the other side asks the questions, and then what we do is the lawyers and I, or the judge, go back in the back, and we will go through that group of people that we ask questions of, and the lawyers get a certain amount of people that they can discharge for no reason, or they can try and discharge them for cause. And then I'll come back into the courtroom with the lawyers, and I will let some people go, and some people will stay to serve on the jury.
All right, I'm the guy that gets picked, so what do you say? All right, we are going to reconvene this court case at 8 o'clock in the morning, be here, be prepared to stay all day?
It depends. If we're halfway through the jury selection process at 4:30 in the afternoon, we try not to keep people past their regular work hour. But we still haven't picked a jury. Let's say we only have 8 out of the 12, or 13, or 14, depending on how many alternates we have. Then what we try to do, just because we don't want to impose on them, we don't want people to come here and sit for 2 hours. We're pretty good at this, so we think, okay, the jury is going to be selected by 10:30. We tell those people to show up a half hour before, because we don't want to waste their time.
Right. So again, you really do try to make it as convenient and comfortable as possible. All right, let's say, let's skip now to the jury has been picked. Do you tell the people, look, this trial could last 2 weeks? I mean, or do they know that before they get to that point?
We tell them before.
You've already pre-screened them with that.
Well, and I tell them that in the courtroom, because I want, let's say we know it's going to go into the second week. Once again, that person might have vacation plans, or they might have a medical appointment that they can't miss. There are all kinds of good reasons why people can't serve.
Life happens.
Absolutely. Yeah. And they can always be rescheduled.
Okay. Well, let's say you've been picked for a jury, and the trial starts. When do trials start in the morning? Do they end at a certain time at night?
Normally start at 9 o'clock. We ask people to be there around 8:30 to be ready, because we have stragglers sometimes. Starts at 9 o'clock, and that every day, and it depends on where the trial is, what they're going to walk into. But we always give them breaks. We always give them an hour, hour and a half for lunch. We always try to end at 4:30. And I tell my jurors that we will end very close to the end of the normal workday, unless we are in the middle of testimony, or there's something going on that would be better. It would be better served if we kept it in the same time frame, and everybody is okay with staying. Because if somebody has childcare issues or whatever, once again, we're not going to put anybody out.
Right. So how often that every once in a while I'll see that we send out for food? I mean, is that normal?
It is if the jury is in deliberations. We don't give people lunch if the jury trial is still continuing. But if you are in deliberations, absolutely.
All right, so the trial has completed, and the jurors have sat there throughout this entire process. They've been instructed on what to do. They go to a deliberating room. Is that the proper terminology?
Deliberation
room, okay. No, I'm going to be an attorney one of these days. And they come out with their verdict. I mean, they're instructed on what to do and everything. Is there an average time for that? I mean, obviously the longer the more serious the crime or the charge, the longer it's going to take to deliberate. But I mean, do you say after 2 hours, ooh, this is going to be an interesting one? I mean, depending on what the type of case is.
It's funny. I have a terrible time trying to predict how long they're going to be.
I was going to say, is there...
My court reporter's great at it, but I'm not.
I mean, do the attorneys go, okay, this one's going to go quick, this one's not going...
Well, there's some theories about whether or not, if something takes long, it's
quick,
for
good.
one side or the other.
Right.
I won't go into that, but you never know. You just never know. We've had juries come back in 15, 20 minutes. We've had juries that can't decide, that we either just I've been here at midnight waiting for a jury to finish.
Well, one more question about the jury, because we've only got a minute to go. Let's say the jury is can't decide. They're tied, so to speak. Deadlock
Yeah.
would be the proper term. You're right. What do you do?
We mistrial it.
And then you go after it all again.
Well, that's up to if it's a prosecution, if it's a criminal case, that's the state's
That's
decision.
their call.
Right.
Okay. Again, we only have a minute to go with the Chief Judge of the 7th Judicial Circuit, Leslie Graves. You've been it's been a thrill having you here. It really has.
Thank you.
I got to ask you, I've always wanted to ask, especially the Chief Judge. All right.
Oh, boy.
What are you looking for when somebody comes into your courtroom? Is there a dress code? Are there certain things you look for? Are there certain things people do that you go, you know what, you probably shouldn't have done that, buddy?
Yes, I mean.
Tell me what those are so I won't do them.
Dress code for just court?
Yeah, if you're coming in to,
Not that it would be you, but if you're charged with a criminal case, let's say a drug possession case, don't come in with a marijuana leaf T-shirt. It's a bad thing.
That's not good. Okay.
I personally have a restriction. I do not allow men to wear shorts. Matter of fact, I've had a police officer that I have told no shorts.
All right, so no shorts. Okay.
No shorts.
How about shower shoes and things like that?
Absolutely not. Pajama pants.
We get that a lot.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, and your pants have to be pulled up.
Your pants have to be, yes,
Okay.
pulled up. And just, I hate to say come dressed like you're going to church, but just show some
it shows respect. You're right.
Absolutely. And not to me, Leslie Graves, but to the court,
Amen.
to the process.
Well, and we wish you continued good luck. The county and the circuit is better off because you're the Chief Judge, and I sincerely mean that. You've made some wonderful changes. We are totally out of time. Once again, thank you to our guest today, talking about jury duty with the Chief Judge of the 7th Judicial Circuit, the Honorable Judge Leslie Graves. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching this episode of Sangamon County Circuit Clerk Presents. These programs are produced for your benefit to help you in your interaction with the court system. They're accessible on the Circuit Clerk's website and YouTube channel, as well as the City of Springfield's Public Access Channel 4. I'm Betsy Moore.